What up? Welcome back to another episode or video of EDH deck. That's what it's called. Yup. This week we're building Gruul because I actually want to build Gruul in paper, and I need to figure out what to build for that. Not for any specific reason, just because it feels like every other archetype I've kind of built or played with. So yeah, this is Toph, Hardheaded Teacher from the new avatar, the last Airbender set. 4 mana 3/4. When it enters, you may discard a card. If you do, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. And whenever you cast a spell, earthbend 1. If that spell's lessened, put an additional 1 counter on the land. Earthbending is when target land becomes a 0/0 creature with haste. That's still land. Put a 1/1 counter on it. When it dies or is exiled, return to the battlefield tapped. So, like, you know, if it blocks or gets removal or board wiped, it'll pretty much always come back. Unless it's like a Psych Rift, then they'll go to your hand, and that's not great. But besides that, it's pretty good. Yeah, this deck's called Toph teaches 1/1 counters because the deck was originally a lot more Avatar themed, and I'm like, this kind of sucks. And I mean, it's still considered bracket 2, but it's just a little bit stronger. We're playing a bunch of 1/1 synergy cards because all our lands that are creatures are just like essentially tokens with 1/1 counters on them. So yeah, going through the deck, not many artifacts. Arcane Signet's in here for ramp. Ozolith is in here to almost double our 1/1 counters when we earthbend. We earthbend 1, we put an additional 1/1 counter, so it's an earthbend 2. We're 2xing our value off of this. Skull Clamp, it's a good way to have drawn the deck because I realized the deck was really struggling with draw. Equip this to a land. We have a bunch of like sack effects among lands and other cards, so you can put this onto a creature land that's earthbended, sack it, get the draw, also the land still comes back, and you get the cards effect. Soul Ring, obviously it's a Soul Ring, and Swiftfoot Boots are just kind of in here for protection. Earth Crystal, 4 mana, green spells cost 1 less, which is nice, and when you would put 1 or more 1/1 counters, you put Toy Summoning on instead, so it's a counter doubler, essentially. A lot better when you have another effect that's already putting like 1/1 counters on. I'm not sure how layering works with that, but yeah. On the creatures, we got Badger Mole, 5 mana 4/4, kind of draft chaff, but it fits the theme of the deck. Whenever this creature enters Earthbend 2, which is alright, and creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have trample. This is obviously a lot nicer later on in the game if you pump up your creatures, or you have other effects on them as well, like Double Strike or something else. Boomy Unleashed, 5 mana 5/4 with trample when it enters Earthbend 4, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, untap all lands you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Only land creatures can attack during that combat phase, so it's just a way to get more aggro with the deck. Just double swing with all your lands every turn. Also, the Earthbended 4 land can also attack on turn it's played, which, yeah, because it has haste. Earthbending Student, 3 mana 1/3 when this creature enters Earthbend 2, and land creatures you control have vigilance, so you can essentially attack with your lands and then tap them in your second main for spells, or later on somebody else's turn for spells. Because yeah, big problem with swing with all your lands is then you just run out of mana, or you use the lands that are creatures to cast a spell and then you don't have anything to swing with. So this is a way to kind of get around that. Evolution Stage, whenever the land enters Proliferate, obviously when a lot of our creatures have 1/1 counters on them, this card is super duper good. Goblin and Archomancer, green spells and red spells cost 1 less. Horizon Explorer, lands you control enter untapped. Whenever you attack player, create a lander token. This part is a little less relevant. It's mainly for they enter untapped, because obviously when the land dies and comes back from earthbending, it enters tapped. This is a way to just have it come in untapped. Cheat mana a little bit. Kami of Whispered Hopes, whenever 1 or more 1/1 counters will be put on permanent you control, that many +1 1/1s are put on it instead. Another way to just increase our 1/1 counters. Kodama of the West Tree, reach modified creatures have trample, and whenever modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a base land card, put it on the battlefield tapped and shuffle. This means that all our lands are attacking if any of them are getting through, which they most likely are, especially if they have trample. We're just ramping a lot with basics. Unfortunately, it's only basics, but if it wasn't, this card would be like even crazier than it is. Meltstrider Eulogist, whenever a creature you control with 1/1 counter on it dies, draw a card. This is just another draw engine in our deck. Ragged Draga, Gorgut's Boss. I just know it's Ragged Draga. I've never read this right. Each creature you control with a mana ability gets +2/+2, so all our lands are getting +2/+2. And whenever a creature you control with a mana ability attacks on tap it, so it's a way, again, kind of like Vigilance, you can hit and then later still use it for mana. The third part, whenever you cast a spell, if at least 7 mana was spent to cast it on tap target creature, it gets +7/+7 against trample till end of turn, is really irrelevant in our deck. I don't think we have a spell that costs 7 or more. It's strictly in here mainly just for pumping our lands. Spinner of Souls, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you may reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. Whenever one of our lands that are earthbended dies, we just get a creature in our hand, which is pretty sick. It's like even more value for us losing lands. Springbloom Druid, whenever this creature enters, you may sacrifice land. If you do, search your library for up to 2 basics, put them on the battlefield, tap, and shuffle. This is one of those many ramp effects where we can sack a land that's earthbended, get 2 basics, then the sacked land comes back because it died. It's not a creature anymore, but it's essentially 3 mana 1/1 ETB ramp 2, which is typically a 4 CMC or like a 4 mana thing with Migration Path. Sylvan Advocate, 2 mana 2/3. As long as you control 6 or more lands, it and land creatures get +2/+2. Just another way to pump up all our lands with our earthbending. Giving it vigilance is kind of irrelevant. Like a 2 mana 4/5 is pretty good stat wise, but it's mainly in here just to buff all our lands. Sylvan Safekeeper, 1 mana 1/1. You can sack a land, target creature control, gain shroud till end of turn. Obviously, this is really good protection. As well as just sacrificing a land, you're not actually really losing the land if you're choosing an earthbended one. Toph, Greatest Earthbender. This is, I believe, from one of the scene cards. It might be found in collector boosters too, I'm not sure. When it enters, Earthbend X, where X is the amount of mana that's cast her, and land creatures you control have double strike. The first effect is alright. I think it'd be a lot more interesting on a commander where her commander tax just keeps going up, so the whatever you Earthbend just keeps going up. But yeah, having land creatures have double strike is really good in the deck. Toph, Blind Bandit. When it enters, Earthbend 2, and its power is equal to the number of 1/1 counters on land you control. So obviously this thing just gets huge. It doesn't have trample or anything, which is a little unfortunate, but if you can sneak it in for attack, and it Earthbend 2s, it's Toph, so you put in the Toph deck, it's on theme. Tributary Instructor, 4 mana 4/4 Mentor, and whenever a creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it dies, draw a card. Again, this is just one of those card advantage, because all our lands are going to be 1/1 counter creatures. On to the enchantments. Branching Evolution, one of the many enchantments that say when we get a 1/1 counter, we double our 1/1 counters. I mean, all of these cards are most of these cards are in the deck, as long as they're appropriately statted. Earthbender's Ascension, 3 mana. When it enters, Earthbend 2, then search your library for basic land, put it on the battlefield, tap, and shuffle. So it's 3 mana, ramp 1, and Earthbend. And then whenever land you control enters, put a quest counter on this enchantment. When you do, if it has 4 or more quest counters, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. It gains trample till end of turn. Second effect's alright. I think it just kind of fits with the theme of the deck. You're earthbending and you're ramping with it, which is nice. Hardened Scales, 1 mana. If 1 or more 1/1 counters we put on a creature you control, put that many +1 on instead. Just another way to increase our 1/1 counters. Loading Zone, if 1 or more counters will be put on a creature, spacecraft, or planet you control, twice that many of each of those kind of counters are put on it instead. So obviously this just doubles all our 1/1 counters. Also you can warp it in for 1, which is nice. Solid Ground, 4 mana. When this enchantment enters, Earthbend 3, and if 1 or more 1/1 counters we put on a permanent you control, that many +1/1. Yeah, so just pumping up all your lands with them. Spelunking, not pumping, but it's when it enters, draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you put a cave on the battlefield, you gain 4 life, and lands you control enter the battlefield untapped, which is the real reason why we're playing this card. Sphere Grid, 2 mana. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage, put a 1/1 counter on that creature. So it kind of fits the 1/1 theme deck. And the creatures you control with 1/1 counters on them have reach and trample are really nice, especially reach, because it's hard to, I think, get through attacking into this deck. It feels very defensive. You don't just swing it with your lands and hold them as blockers and just get a bunch of value out of that because they don't actually die. And this just giving them reach makes it even easier to defend with, or trample when you swing later. Onto the creature or instance. Beast Within is obviously just Beast Within, destroys a permanent. Chaos Warp is just Chaos Warp. It puts a permanent into a library and then they get a permanent. Combustion Technique, one of the many lessons. I originally built this deck with a lot more lessons, and I'm like, not a lot of the lessons are good enough, and I want it to be a little higher power. So this is when it deals damage. It deals damage equal to plus number of lesson cards in your graveyard to target creature. That creature would die this turn. Exile it instead. 2 mana for doing easily at least 3 or 4 damage is pretty good. Obviously, in these colors, like your removal options aren't the greatest. It's a lot based on like either damage like this or fighting in green. So yeah, I think it's a playable card. It might not be as good as like a lightning bolt or something, but it's kind of on theme in the deck, so I play that. Cycle of Renewal, 3 mana, sack a land, search your library for 2 basics, put them on battlefield tapped. It's a Harrow effect, but yeah, new card. It's also just Harrow. Elemental Teachings, 5 mana, search your library for up to 4 lands with different names and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards, put the chosen cards into your graveyard and the rest on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. I'm sure there's a way to break this card. The card's not broken in this deck. It is kind of just 5 mana ramp 2, which isn't great, but it's an avatar card, and I think it's really, really cool. So I just put it in. But yeah, I definitely think you could like hyper break this card. I'm just not sure how. If you have a land that can like, yeah, I'm thinking about it. I don't know. You could probably do some highness with this. Energy Bending, lands you control gain all base land types to the end of turn, draw a card. This is relevant for like 2 cards in the deck. It's also just 2 mana, draw a card. That's also a lesson, which essentially makes it 2/2. So, I don't know, would you play a 2 mana 2/2 that taps for mana, draws you a card? Probably. I'm not sure. Either way, it's in the deck. It kind of fits. It's an Avatar, the last Airbender card. Enters Restoration, 3 mana, sack a land, search for 2 basics. Then if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, instead you search for 3 basics. So it's just like a slightly better Harrow or the previous card. Harrow, same thing. Sack a land, search the library for 2 basics, put them on the field. Oh, put them on the battlefield. They don't even come in tapped. I didn't realize that until now. Yeah, makes it even a little bit better. Cool. How to Start a Riot, 3 mana, target creature gains menace till end of turn. Kind of whatever. Creatures target player controls gets +2/+0 until end of turn is really good. Especially if we have like trample double strike. Or let's say an elf player decides to swing at, I don't know, somebody else, or some token deck swings at somebody else. We can just buff up all those creatures and like randomly have that player kill another player, which they might not want to do. Inspiring Call, 3 mana, draw a card for each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. Those creatures gain indestructible, so a little bit of protection, as well as you're just drawing a bunch of cards, which is the main reason why it's in the deck. Origin of Metal Bending, 2 mana, you can destroy an artifact or enchantment, or you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature, it gains indestructible till end of turn. Just a versatile card, it's removal or it's protection. Overwhelming Victory, 5 mana, deals 5 damage to target creature. Each creature you control gains trample, gets +X/+0 till end of turn, where X is the amount of excess damage dealt this way. Realistically, this card is, I don't know, feels like a bit of a pipe dream card, but it's like you hit the 1/1 counter, all your things get +4/+0 till end of turn. We don't really have that many small creatures. You could do this on like tap a land to cast this and then KO that land if it only had a 1/1 counter on it, and then you're still getting 4 to everything else, which is like you're 4 damage off, but whatever. So yeah, interesting. Return of the Wild Speaker, draw a card equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control, or non-human creatures get +3/+3 till end of turn. I think both versions are pretty good. The second effect might be a little bit better for ending games, because like 5 mana, draw 3. I guess that's just Harmonize, but yeah. I'm saying draw 3 because our commander's a 3/4. Actually, yeah, non-human. I don't know, your lands usually hit 3. Rocky Rebuke, 2 mana, target creature you control deals damage equal to the power target creature and opponent controls. Kind of a fight spell, but it's only damage, so they don't actually fight, so your guy's not at risk of anything. Kind of removal. It's in the set, which is why it's in the deck. Roiling Regrowth, 3 mana, sack and land, search your library for 2 basics, put them on battlefield, tap and shuffle. Again, just another one of those effects. Solstice Revelations. I think this card's really, really cool. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile an online card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost if the spell's mana value is less than the number of mountains you control. If you don't cast that card this way, put it into your hand. Our CMC average is like, I think 3 or 4 in the deck. And it's really, really easy to see 3 or 4 mountains, especially with the high amount of basics we're playing. Yeah, I think this card's actually really, really cool. Like, you could probably do some cool combo stuff with it. I'm not sure how, but yeah. I'll cover the lands last. There's nothing that special about them. Onto the sorceries. Blossom Sack, just a really good board wipe. Boomy Bash deals damage equal to the number of lands you control the target creature, or destroy target land, creature, or non-basic land. It hits non-basics, and it can also hit creatures. For 4 mana, it's a little underwhelming, but I'm still playing it. Cracked Earth Technique, 5 mana Earthbend 3, gain 3 life. Also at Earthbend 2s if you have Toph on board already. Card's alright. I think it's pretty cool. It just makes a bunch of guys if you're struggling to keep up. Earth Rumble, 4 mana Earthbend 2. When you do, up to one target creature you control fights target creature and opponent controls. So this can be removal as well as Earthbending. Earthbending Lesson, Earthbend 4 for 4. It also Earthbend 2. It's kind of just in the deck because it really fits the theme. I think you could play better cards. Farseek is just 2 mana ramp. Try to commit to 2 mana ramp because with a 4 mana commander, you hit 2 mana, you play the 2 mana ramp, you go to 3 mana, next turn you play a land, you go to 4 mana, you play your commander. That's kind of how it works with the counting in this deck. Nahiri's Lithoforming, I think this card's really neat in the deck. Sacrifice X lands. For each land sacrificed this way, draw a card. You may play X additional lands this turn. Lands you control enter tap this turn. Last part, kind of irrelevant, or kind of unfortunate, but like sacrificing all your land creatures that have attacked or that you don't need at the moment just to draw a bunch of cards and then essentially ramp a lot for the rest of the turn is pretty cool. Nature's Lore, 2 mana ramp, a forest. Price of Freedom, 2 mana destroy an artifact or land opponent controls. Its controller may search the library for basic land, put it on the battlefield, tap and shuffle, draw a card. So it's 2 mana draw a card on a lesson that also can hit a land or an artifact, which isn't bad. Rampant Growth is ramp for a basic. Reckless Blaze, 5 mana, deals 5 damage to each creature. Whenever a creature you control dealt damage this way dies this turn, add a red. I think it's a pretty interesting board wipe. You can hurt a bunch of your lands, you wouldn't actually lose the lands. Then if you have like a Spelunking or something, they'd still come in untapped. And then you'd also make a bunch of reds, so if you had a bunch of cards in your hand, you could just play them all out while probably hitting most boards. Rishkar's Expertise, draw cards equal to the greatest power among creature control. Then you may cast spells mana value 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. I read this card more as like 1 mana draw equal because you're just playing 5 mana for free after. So if this is like 1 mana draw 4, I think that's pretty good. I mean, obviously it's like not always you're playing a CM like a mana value 5 card, but even at like 3 mana draw 3 or 4 is still pretty good. Rocklanche, 3 mana, Earthbend X, where X is the number of force you control. This is one of those other basic land type payoffs that we use energy bending for. Also, we are running Yavi Mai in the deck, so all our lands are, or like once we play it, all our lands will be forests. So this can really easily just like Earthbend 10, and then you flashback Earthbend 10 on the later turn. It's not bad. Seismic Sense, 1 mana, look at the top X card of your library, where X is the number of lands you control. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them, put them into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. It's a little tutor. I think there's a blue card that's seeing standard play that's pretty similar to this card, except I think it's a little more generic on what it grabs. Like it just hits anything. But yeah, I think this card is really interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if I put this in a lot of green decks that just ramp really hard. Shared Roots, 2 mana, get a basic, go on library, tap and shuffle. Another one of those 2 mana ramp spells. 3 visits, same thing. It's a forest though. True Ancestry, 2 mana, return 1 target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, and you make a clue. It's kind of like Eternal Witness, but it's a sorcery instead. You make a clue, which can be a payoff if you're running out of cards to play, and it's a lesson, so Earthbend 2s. Alright, quickly going over the land base. Bossing Sea is in the deck. Enters, tap unless you control basic, it taps for a green, and you can pay 3 Earthbend 2, which is alright. Tapped unless you have 2 or more basics. I mean, we're running a lot of basics in this deck. I think it's like 21, just because a lot of our ramp only hits basics. Command Tower is a command tower. Darksteel Citadel is just an indestructible attacker when you Earthbend it, which is why I'm playing it. Alternatively, Sightwood Bridge, probably just better. I don't know. If you care about it coming in tapped or not, you could play the Gruul artifact land as well. Exotic Orchard is Exotic Orchard. 9 or 12 forests. I mean, like, it's really one-sided to green because I really indexed on 1/1 counters and ramp, which is mainly what green does and less what red does. So yeah, we're running 12, whereas we're only running 9 mountains. Game Trail, because we run a lot of forests and mountains, this usually comes in untapped. Carplucent Forest comes in untapped. Ravaging Ravine can become a 3/3 red and green elemental creature token that pumps itself when it attacks, which is obviously better when we're Earthbending as well. We Earthbend it, give it like 1 or 2 counters, activate the effect, it'll be now like a 5/5 if you have 2 counters. When it attacks, you put another counter on it. Restless Ridgeline, same thing, becomes a 3/4 dinosaur. Rockvale Vale is just a 2-color that comes in untapped. Rootbound Crag, again, just comes in untapped. Secret Tunnel, this land can't be blocked. It's like super specific to the set, but it works really well with Earthbending, which is why it was printed. Stomping Ground, because they're really cheap, highly recommend buying the Edge of Eternity Shock land cycle. If you want to buy shocks, I think now is a good time for this cycle, and then obviously when Lorwyn comes out next year, hopefully those ones will also be around this price. Thornspire Verge, taps for 2 colors pretty easily, and Yavimaya just makes all our lands into forests. On the maybe board, these were cards that, either I didn't put in because they were a little too expensive, Amulet of Vigor, or just because I didn't think they were good enough or worked well enough in the deck. Bitter Work, Earthbend 4, activate only sorcery when you attack a player with 1 or more creatures with power 4 or greater, draw a card. I haven't tested the deck over enough games to figure out how easy it is to just attack with 4 power creatures, because there are quite a few payoffs for playing for attacking things with 4 power or more. This was obviously one of them, and they have pretty good effects. It's just I don't know how reliable it is. Boomy, whenever it attacks, put 2/1 counters on each land creature you control, and when it enters Earthbend 1, I think this card is just too susceptible to being blocked by something that's as big in size and then just dying and not doing anything. Cultivate, I just didn't want to play the 3 mana ramp spells. Fabled Passage, you could probably play this. I mean, you Earthbend it, you sack it, it stays on the battlefield tapped, and then you also get a basic. Sure, I mean, if you want to. I took out these and like all the cheaper ones just because I wanted to run a lot of basics. Famished Worldsire, this is a fun one. Devour Land 3, so you can sacrifice any number of lands that enters with 3 times that many 1/1 counters. And when it enters, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is this creature's power. Put any number of land cards from among them onto the battlefield, tap and shuffle. So you just like sacrifice all your Earthbended creature lands, and then they all come back, and then you also ramp a ton with this card. I really like this card. Hardheaded Talent. Oh yeah, it's on the deck just kind of because like I wasn't sure how reliable it would be. It's also 8 mana, which can be kind of hard to cast. It's a bit of a hog. Hardheaded Talent, whenever another ally enters Earthbend 1. I think if you're playing like a more Avatar themed deck, this card's better. Just not running enough allies. My original deck had way more, and this card was pretty good, but yeah. Lotus Field enters tapped. You have to sack 2 lands, and it adds 3 mana of any one color. Again, you just sack an Earthbended land. I think that makes this a pretty interesting card. Just not really in the deck because I think it feels pretty negative on tempo. Sightwood Bridge, again, one of those indestructible 2-color lands. It's just, wanted to play more basics. Tale of Katara and Toph. Creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes tapped, put a 1/1 counter during each of your turns. During each of your turns, put a 1/1 counter on this. I think it's just too slow. Like, you attack with all your land creatures, and then they just like they're 1 bigger next turn. If they don't get blocked and die. I think it's a little too slow. Tectonic Split, I think this card's really cool. I just couldn't justify it. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice half your lands you control rounded up. It has hexproof, and lands you control have tap, add 3 mana of any one color. So the big problem with this deck is you Earthbend so many lands to the point where you have to tap your Earthbended lands for mana to cast spells to Earthbend more. And this kind of gets around it by just making all your non-Earthbended lands tap for more mana, so you don't have to tap your Earthbended ones. But I don't know, sacrificing half your lands, which is probably going to be most of your Earthbended lands, is a little rough. Terra Symbiosis, 3 mana. Whenever you put 1 or more 1/1 counters on a creature you control, you may draw that many cards. Do this only once each turn. I mean, like, 2 mana draw 2 every turn isn't bad when you cast like a lesson, but or 3 mana, and then every turn, yeah, you cast lesson, you draw 2, but it's only once a turn, which is why I'm kind of turned off by this card. This card is very fair. Maybe it deserves to be in the deck because of how fair it is. That's very possible. The Boulder, Ready to Rumble. Whenever the Boulder attacks, Earthbend X, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 4 or greater. This is again one of those other like power 4 or greater payoff cards that are in this game that I'm just like, I don't know if my lands are really becoming 4/4s that easily. And then the Earth King, 3 mana, 2/2. When enters, make a 4/4. Obviously, this plays towards the power 4 or greater strategy, but whenever one or more creatures you control with power 4 or greater attack, search your library for up to that many basic land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. Yeah, this will just ramp you a bunch, but one or more, unfortunately, means you'll only ever do it once a turn, which is a little unfortunate. The Ozolith, whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put them on the Ozolith. And then at the beginning of combat, if it has counters on it, you may move all counters from it onto target creature. So your lands that are earthbended die, all the 1/1 counters get put on this, and then you can move those counters onto other things. This card, Giga Broken in the deck, it's just like, this price is wild, and I really hope they reprint it in something. I mean, maybe in a Universes Beyond, they'll do like a Through the Ages Ozolith or some crap. Toph, Earthbending Master. This is the experience one, so whenever you play a land, or whenever a land enters, it gets an experience counter, and whenever you attack Earthbend X or X number of experience counters you have. I think instead of going big Earthbending in this deck, it's more just you Earthbend wide as opposed to one Earthbend big. That's kind of how the deck plays. And then, yeah, that's the deck. So thank you very much for watching. I mean, I'll quickly go through the Rex, but this has been a little bit longer. Badgermole Cub, really good card, but yeah, a little pricey. You know, we'll put this in the maybe board for now. During your turn, Avatar Kyoshi has Hexproof. At the beginning of your combat, Earthbend 8, untap that card. For 8 mana, I think this guy's a little too slow. I could see like maybe a mono green deck with Avatar Kyoshi or Toph Earthbending Master as the commander, and you just play like a lot of ramp and a lot of landfall stuff. Maybe not if you're playing Kyoshi, but if you're playing Toph. I'm kind of low on Tanuk. I think he's like a really good commander, but seeing him as a supporting thing where it's like if you play 2 lands in a turn, you draw a card in a deck that isn't doing like crazy landfall things, I think this is whatever. Again, all like the fetch lands, good, but I'm just running a lot of basics. Explorer's decent ramp, but it's not as reliable as the other 2 mana ones. Heroic Intervention, Redirect Lightning are all just like super good cards. Earth Kingdom General, whenever you put 1 or more 1/1 counters on this creature, you may gain that much life. Do this only once each turn. Gaining 3 life a turn, who cares? Like, you just have so many blocks, doesn't matter. Ashaya seems broken in most decks I see her played in, but I don't know if I can justify playing Ashaya in this deck because you're already earthbending most of your lands. Lotus Cobra is a landfall thing I don't care about. Morag is a landfall thing that gives you second combat phases, but like I don't really care about. Yeah, Zern Orb. I think Zern Orb's pretty interesting as a life gain thing, but more as a sack outlet. Iso Explorer is obviously really good. Embodiment of Fury. I thought about playing lands. You have trample, and then whenever land enters, it gets 3. It becomes a 3/3 with haste. But, I don't know. Cave of Two Lovers. It earthbends and it ramps you a mountain, which is cool in mono red. But like, yeah, a lot of the recommendations seem more like landfall type things. Bristly Bill's probably really good, but it only doubles one thing, and it only puts, and it's landfall-y. So yeah. Either way, thank you very much for watching. That's this week's episode. I don't know what I'm gonna cover next week, but until then, goodbye.